Welcome back to Clockwise Thoughts. I'm Scout, and once again,
I'm black.
Got Black with me. This is part two of our mini series, Black Entrepreneurs. Today, we're going to cover Mr. Chris Gardner, Mr. Pursuit of Happiness himself. Will Smith won the Academy Award behind it. We all know the man was basically a rags to riches story. But what we don't know is the background from it, the backfield, and how he got to that point, and also what he's been doing since then. A lot of times we get caught up with these great movies, and the actors portray these people so well that we forget, okay, what happened to him? Pursuit of Happiness was great. Will did do a great movie. But Mr. Chris Gardner himself, what has he been doing? But before then, we're going to let you inside of how he got to that point. So, Black, what do you have to let them know about how Mr. Gardner got to this point?
Well, to be completely honest, and how you doing, everybody? First of all, let me just say this: I did not see The Pursuit of Happiness. Shame on me. I know. So
Yes,
I had to
very
do a little
shame
bit
on
of
you.
digging. Yeah, I had to do a little bit of digging. So I'm not, I mean, this is not based on the movie. I had to do some actual clawing in this. But Mr. Christopher Paul Gardner, I found out, was born February 9th, 1954, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Born
Mhm.
to a Thomas Turner and a Betty Jean Gardner. So we understand where the last name came from.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Chris Gardner didn't really have much of a father figure growing up. Thomas Turner was actually living in Louisiana during his birth. So
Okay.
his mother raised him. Now he had an older sister uh, from his mom from a previous relationship, but then he also has two younger sisters. Now these are from the mother's marriage to, I believe the man's name was Freddie Triplet. So
Okay.
in a situation there was a male figure growing up. I guess we could just say it wasn't a positive male figure from what my
Yeah,
readings are.
a
You
lot
know
of
what I mean?
homes is
And
like that sometimes. Sorry to
oh
say
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah. Your dad's there, but he's not really there. And I think that's what this type of situation was. There was a lot of reported abuse in the household growing up that Chris saw, and I'm pretty sure that left an impressionable scar on a young kid's psyche, especially when the person that's perpetrating, the physical abuse, the alcoholism, and things of that nature, the verbal abuse. This is who you're told is someone you're supposed to, almost in a sense, grow up to kind of be like you're supposed to be a man. Well, he's a man, so am I supposed to do the stuff that he does?
Yeah, it
And
sets a
I
lot of
mean,
bad examples, and it can break a child or break a whole entire family down.
and as weird as it is, I think some of that might have actually played into some decisions later on in life. But
Okay.
speaking of the decisions in life, yeah, Mr. Gardner, like I say, growing up, so maybe I think about the age of 7 or 8 from what I was reading. He and his sisters were then placed in foster care after Mr. Triplet, the stepfather,
Hmm.
allegedly had their mother arrested on welfare fraud.
Oh, no. No. Oh,
Yeah.
that ain't
Now
good.
that's a very, very contentious point for me because there is a lovely lady out there. I won't mention any names, but she is contributing father absence in the black community to the I guess you could say the welfare system. Now,
Right. There's a lot of people like that.
I personally, I'm not really in agreement with that idea, but this situation, I can understand. This is the type of situation that would bolster her argument, and I do admit that these things do happen. So I just wanted to make that known. But there was then Mr. Gardner and his sisters were placed in the foster care.
Hmm.
I believe charges in that situation were dropped. Now, what I found that was really interesting was the second stint into foster care, where allegedly their mother, Betty Jean Gardner, attempted to kill Mr. Triplett by arson. Like
Mm.
attempted to burn the house down while he was in it.
Oh no, no. That's a lot of
Now,
struggling.
without a question. But then here's where things get interesting. Because of that happening and being placed in foster care,
Mm.
the Mr. Gardner was then introduced to his uncles, one of
Okay.
which in particular, his uncle Henry, who had been a Navyman himself, and had explained to Chris, his worldwide travels, and that kind of sparked an interest in Chris at a young age to enlist.
Right.
Now, sadly, I did also find out that Uncle Henry did die drowning in the Mississippi River, but
That's
I
constant
believe.
tragedy at an early age.
But that's what I mean. It's tragedy, but it kind of points you in the right direction, because coming from a situation where discipline is kind of, I guess you could almost say, unevenly handed out, and you're not really seeing a positive male figure for someone to point you into the direction of the military. That can kind of fill some of those voids that you have as a young man at a young age.
True. Because the way it sounding, he had a lot of tragedy up front. Not only one stint of foster care that can work on, your mental status and your ego and your self-esteem, but then having two, and then he finally gets a little bit ahead and then gets set back again because the man that was, trying to fix it at the moment then drowns.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people never overcome one
that
diversity. He's already
getting
went
getting
to
kicked in
three.
the face, getting kicked in the face three different times at a very young age. Yeah, yeah,
Oh yes.
yeah. And as we know, the road will then get subsequently harder. But
Right. It's not
yeah,
easy. It
this
does
is
not get easy.
this is pretty much the beginning of it. Now, I also found out that after being, again, he enlisted, and after he was discharged from the Navy, he took a lab position at the University of Cal's Medical Center and the Veterans Admin Hospital.
Okay.
So going from a situation where you have no structure to a situation where you're now, okay, I'm in a structured environment and I'm in a career that's progressing, that will advance. It's like, hey, okay, I'm on the path to success, I'm on
Right.
the path to pursue happiness, and yet and still this is all before that actually happens.
Oh yeah. The road that goes with success is not an easy road. Well, the road in life, period, is not an easy
Mhm.
road. You have to figure out, you know, what type of road you want to ride on. And it's gonna constantly change. It's not always gonna be pavement. It's always not gonna be a dirt road, but it's how you ride it and how you adjust
Mhm.
per se. But
Mhm.
okay, so medical hospital, admin at a military medical hospital. Okay, so what happened next in Mr. Gardner's life after that little stint? Sounds like he's on the upcoming at this
I,
point.
I, I believe me. That again, like I said, I hadn't read the movie. I haven't watched the movie, so I'm like, okay, so this is interesting. We're gonna go. We're in the medical profession right now, and this is in the 1970s. So
Mm,
I'm not exactly sure what the advances that we had back then were, but again, I do know that the medical field is always progressing. So
right.
you're in a field that will constantly allow you to move forward. Well, I believe he married Sherry Dyson
Mm,
in 1977.
okay.
Now, this was his first wife. Again, he's from what I'm reading. Okay, you're fresh out of You're fresh on your path. Now, mind you, let's make sure we say this. There's really no formal education here yet. Okay, it's
Right.
kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like just work experience. There's really no formal education, but you've been in the field, you're hands on, you're learning, so you know what to do. You just don't have the certification for it.
Right.
Now,
He ain't up to that.
he's married to Sherry Dyson,
Hmm.
but then apparently there came a Jackie Medina, and Jackie Medina he started seeing while still married to Dyson.
Oh, that's the like bad
Once,
aspect of that.
once, did I not say earlier that a lot of the stuff you see when you're younger, it kind of puts a scar on you that shows itself later. Okay, so
Oh yeah.
shortly after starting to see Medina, having the affair with Medina, she becomes pregnant.
Hmm.
Hmm. She becomes pregnant with Christopher Gardner Jr., the young man depicted in the movie.
Okay.
Needless to say, the marriage with Dyson dissolved. Although I believe from what I read, it did take a few years legally for the divorce to actually finalize. He
Hmm.
had already been moved in and living with Medina, but and the child had already been born. But the divorce itself, it on paper, it did take a few years to actually dissolve.
Mm.
So okay, so let's recap this now. So we come up in a we come up in an abusive home. Come up in an
Yes,
abusive
that's one.
home under difficult circumstances.
True.
Now you're the only boy with three sisters. You have an abusive stepfather in the situation. All right. Okay, so we can understand that mindset. You then grow to come into contact with a man that you then learn to, or you come to kind of in a sense look up to, um venerate, if I'm using the word correctly, and then that puts you on the path to then get your life, I guess you could say, in order. At a very young age, mind you, but get your life in
True.
order.
Yeah, it was
All
that
right.
stage, the developmental stage, of
Mm-hmm.
figuring out your way. Yeah, I agree with you. Go ahead.
So then we're there. So okay, you're figuring out the path. You're like, all right, I see the road ahead of me. You know what I got the wife. You know what I mean. We're gonna do this. Then temptation and comes in and derails that. All right.
Right.
Okay. So now you have a kid with the
Hmm.
woman now you're now seeing outside of the woman that you were married to. So we got that now. We got that baggage thrown on top of everything else that's happened.
Right.
Okay.
That's a lot of baggage.
All right. Now you're working as he took a job working as a lab research assistant, making about 8,000 a year. And I don't know about you, but in the 1980s, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not going to cut it in any generation. Maybe in the
No,
1930s.
you extra bro.
Okay. Extra. All right. Matter of fact, extra. We'll throw another one on top of that because remember, you got a kid to take care of now.
Oh yeah, and
Okay.
only you said 8,000 total a year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, you way below the property line. But okay,
Now,
go
now
go ahead.
that's when he drops that job. Now he drops
Hmm.
that job as the lab assistant to then become the medical equipment salesman.
Yeah, the bone scanners and everything else that he was doing for
Hmm.
surgeries. Yes.
That's when that comes in. Not about that time, not too long after that is when he's, he's kind of urged by his son. Of course, his son is born at this time now, and that's when he goes to go meet his actual father, Thomas
Mm.
Turner, in Louisiana,
Hmm.
and then coming back from that meeting, It said this in the article. It said this in the article that I was reading. So I don't know if this is in the movie, but apparently there was some man in a red Ferrari, a gentleman by the name of Bob Bridges, and that's the man. He was a stockbroker, and that's who introduced Chris Gardner to the world of finances, which
In the
then
movie,
set him on the path to where he is today.
in the movie, it was shown a little bit different. You know, he asked him where in the world could he get a car like that where he drove, and then he asked him what he was doing. The movie breaks it down from basically the 1980s. It shows the struggles of him and I guess
Mm-hmm.
the young his oldest child's mother and their struggles. You know, pretty much they got caught up in selling uh, those bone density scanners and everything else to officers and stuff like that. And it took a while. It was a major big pyramid part of it, but it took a while. And throughout the movie, you could tell about how the stress of how the mother was feeling. She's working these long, crazy hours, doing, washing clothes as a hand washer at one point to waiting tables late night. So, all this stuff out while he's trying to train and do these scanners. And
Mm-hmm.
the daycare where the boy was at, his son was at, was called Pursuit of Happiness, and they spelled it wrong. It didn't have an I, it had a Y.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that got broken down. But the main thing, since you touched about when it started to pick up, I'm gonna say this for the people that have seen the movie already knows it really did not pick up from then. It was still struggle after struggle. It came to a point to where this man was in a subway bathroom with his son sleep and had to lock the door and had his foot up against the door when the people were trying to get in to for him and his son to have somewhere to sleep because they were homeless. His
Now, mind you, I
car
believe
got
he was working at the time. I do believe he
yes.
was working at the time.
He
He was one of the working homeless.
Yes, he was working. Let's break down where he was working. That stockbroker job that he went and got.
Mm.
At the moment in given time, they were living in between shelters and living homes to where you had to be there about 5 o'clock to get in line to wait
Mm.
to see if you got a bed.
Mm-hmm.
His whole entire broker's thing was they was only gonna pick one. You was in a low paying training program. And when I say low paying, I do mean low paying training program. So Mr. Gardner, the upside with him was through the Navy and through the hospital, his training. He noticed certain little things. If he started at the top of the list, he was never going to finish the list out during a day. Everybody else drinking water, going to the water cooler, talking, going out to eat, all this other stuff. It took time away from the job. So he focused on a system of, I'm going to start at the bottom of the list. I'm going to hit these people up and I'm going to charm them and show them how I can invest their money from them being rich to them being wealthy. Just like how we covered in part one with Magic Johnson. He went from being rich to being wealthy from the type of investments that he made. Now that middle person is Mr. Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
He's letting these rich, famous people, head of these IT companies and everything else, hey, if you just take a little bit of your portfolio and invest with me and I pick and help pick out the stocks with you, we can double or maybe even triple your money from you going from just being rich and somewhat standoffish to being wealthy. And now your kids are trust fund people. That's how it went.
True.
But but it did not come without sacrifice. The movie didn't really even break down too much. You know, he almost lost his son during this because the child's mother and everything and him were separated. It was just him
Mm.
and a child. And some of those days start early in the morning and no days off. None. In the movie, it pictured him going to a football game with one of his clients with his son. And he had to fake the funk and sell it like his car was down the street. And his son almost out of the mouth was like, the car got a boot on it. We are we going back to the church? This, and this. It's moments that it still built up to this. Like I said, having to get up, go take your son to the daycare to where they have him. You're paying that, and you really don't got too much. You're trying to get ahead to make sure that you get a house being stable. This still was not easy. This pursuit of happiness was still not easy. He had to dive in and steadily be like, okay, this small little bump. Oh man, I had a small little setback. I got to keep coming. It it's not done overnight. None of it.
Oh
You
no.
have to
Oh
work.
no.
You know, the thing what people fail to believe in or see, the pursuit of happiness is real.
Yes.
They forget to tell you, with the pursuit of happiness, that meant you want the happiness and everything else. That meant you have to get up off your behind and work to get it.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of people think the pursuit of happiness is given to you,
Yes,
or happiness in
because
itself is given to you.
right, because I'm not knocking nobody for the work or whatever else they do. I'm not. But it's people out here that just they're not happy at their job. Their jobs is there to pay their bills. They're not happy. It's not happiness. That's a job. That's sustainment to take care of what you need
True.
to take care of. People that are actually happy and content at their job, talk to them for a little bit. They
That's true.
act different. They carry
That's true.
themselves different. So Mr. Gardner had to come up with that mindset of I have to already act like I got it. And I'm the
Yeah.
important person in the room to get these people to invest in what he's doing. So with
Because
that being said,
how else can I sell it?
right. So with that saying that, your mentality has to change to say, no, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to command the room. I'm going to make you feel and understand the words what I'm saying so you'll do and go with what I'm saying. And that's another aspect that he broke down in his book, Pursuit of Happiness. He didn't have that at first. It's just like how you said, he came from pretty much a broken home. He didn't
Hmm.
see that. The person that was showing him that drowned, was gone. It didn't, it wasn't finished. So he had to go out there and figure it out on his own because then, hey, you have a little one.
Now
Do
you
you
got to do
want that
something.
cycle? Right. Do you want that
Continue.
cycle to continue?
You got to do
So,
something.
right. And you got to look at it from this perspective. I'm going to say this. A wise person told me this in many conversations that I've had with this person. You cannot look at everything in 2D because if
No.
you're looking at things in 2D, you're not going to see the big picture. You're going to have to develop and see things in 3D or multi-dimensional or multi-views, as he says to me,
Mm.
to see the whole picture. Because like how we said, it's not going, It's not going to be there right then. You're going to go through trial and error. And a lot of times, man, you're going to go through more failures to try to find the pursuit of happiness and go through life than the happy parts. But the lessons that you learn when you do get there, when you are happy, and you don't have to be rich to have that happiness mentality to be like,
No.
hey, no. But when you get that fulfillment, the things come. You see
Now
it.
remember, now wait, now hold on. Let's make sure we make sure we highlight that. There's a difference between fulfillment and being content.
Thank you.
No,
Because a lot,
I'm glad you said fulfillment. That's what that I'm glad you used that word. There's a big difference between fulfillment and being content. So when you find legitimate fulfillment,
right.
that's your
It's,
happiness.
and a lot of people, that's what they're striving for. You know, you, if you're out here and you're searching, what makes you happy? Go off your own checklist. What makes you happy? What
Hmm.
do you have to do to keep that happiness? And then the other part is, what is it after you're doing it? How do you sustain it?
Yeah.
Simple things. Simple things. And Mr. Gardner broke this down. The other thing, this is the thing, once the movie ended, this is the thing what people don't know. Mr. Gardner is in the top three people in the world sought after to, he's an international speaker. He speaks at graduations, business meetings, whatever else. Major people call him into their companies for him to speak, to tell them. He's in the top 3%. I will tell you this from this man's story from rags to riches. If you do not take the part of life is not easy, the pursuit of happiness is not easy. It's a struggle. But it's not how many times that you get hit and knocked down. It's how many times you can take them hits, dust yourself off, and still carry yourself at a higher standard because it's going to happen.
Yeah. And
It's
you don't
not
have
going
to
to
be an
happen.
athlete. You don't have to be an athlete for that to
No.
be the case. You don't have to necessarily win the genetic lottery. See, this is one of those situations where that hard work, that determination pays
Mm-hmm.
off. Granted, that determination comes from some very extreme circumstances. So understand that those circumstances may be different to a degree, tougher or easier than the next person's situation. You know what I mean? We got to understand that. But through those extreme circumstances, that mentality of there is no other option, there is nothing else but to be all in. And as a matter of fact, being all in might not be enough.
Hey,
Greatness can be achieved.
yes. But even with you saying that, you have to understand, even if it's something that's going to make you happy, it doesn't have to be money related. For
Yeah.
instance, you can say weight loss or anything else like that. You have to be disciplined and you have to understand sacrifice has to happen with it for you to achieve your goal. And that's in anything that you're trying to do. You have to
Mhm.
understand, you have to be disciplined. Sacrifices is going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to humble yourself and then you have to do what you need to do. You have to, like how you said, you have to be all in and go forth with it to make it happen.
Well, I mean, in Mr. Gardner's situation, it might be kind of interesting because I think the situation is the partially some of his own doing, but a lot of the external circumstances are what were able to humble him.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, it's one thing to have that mentality from being in that situation. It's another thing crazy to be able to create that mentality within your own mind, that work ethic, that determination. But yeah, you have to be all in. And in some cases, hell, being all in ain't enough sometimes. You know what I mean? You got to go
Right.
more than that.
Yes. And a lot of times you have to understand that. The other bit of the research that I double checked for this, Mr. Gardner is part of a major movement. It's back to high school. It's 100 schools, 10 cities, and they have one goal: permission to dream. Now, I've learned this is the same concept that what LeBron James used with his high school, with his school.
Hmm.
Permission to dream, understanding that you can take your hardship and turn it to a success story. It all the time does not have to be like how you said the sports route. You can be an
Hmm.
entertainer, an engineer, anything that you want to be, but understand you have that permission to dream and you have the right to chase that dream. So I have to give it up to Mr. Gardner on that totally. Um, the understanding that everyone has that right, but with even having that right, people need to understand you're willing to go get that. You can go get it, but you got to put in the
Well,
work.
yeah, but at the same time, you also gotta know, you know what, the work ethic,
Mm-hmm.
the willingness to put in the work is
Yes.
far, far, far more important than the actual, I guess you could say, the your end goal,
Right.
because your end goal could change. You know what I mean? Today you could want to be an actor. Tomorrow you could want to be a scientist. The day after that you could want to be a doctor. Those things can change, but
Right.
the dedication and the willingness to put in the work, that has to remain constant. I mean, as
There
we
you
saw in
go.
Mr. Gardner's life, he switched from the medical field to the realm of finances, but the same desire, the same hard work ethic, that never
True.
changed. So whether it was, accepting a job, as the help a man, I believe it was a Dr. Ellis at the University of Cal's medical department, to within 2 years, rising to be basically like a lab and a research assistant with, again, no actual formal training. That's just dedication and hard work.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't taught this, I had to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, people need to understand that, and that's a great point. It's all the time not going to be handed to you. You have to be
Hmm.
willing to learn and sacrifice. But like how you said, that dedication, you got to do it.
Yeah.
No ifs, no ands. It has to
No, that
happen
has
that
to be
way.
the foundation of it, because no
Right.
matter what direction no matter what direction you point the car in, without the engine and the transmission running, the car won't move no matter where you turn the wheels to,
True.
no matter what
So
direction the wheels stay. So that's
it's
the quintessential thing there. And as a connection, from our previous chapter, again, that it may be different, it may be different ventures, it may be different avenues, but it's that dedication to work hard. It's that mentality that I have to succeed. That's what propelled, Magic Johnson to where he is even today, where, it's propelled Mr. Gardner to where he is today.
correct. And hopefully somebody from who's watching this series will actually sit back and look at it as come up with the plan, humble yourself, look at what avenues that you need to do, and then you got to execute it. But it's not given to you overnight, and you got to do the same thing repetitively, and you got to do it
Mm-hmm.
to get where you need to go. So this whole entire series for me has been a great learning tool, because if you want things to succeed, you got to push forward, but you got to push
Yeah.
forward with a certain mindset, and you have to, like how you said, that work ethic, that desire to, that has to be your foundation. That needs to be your keyword, whatever it needs to be. That right there, to put in that work, has to be done that way. But on the other note, Mr. Gardner, with the whole pursuit of happiness and how it went from horrible circumstances, horrible, to you having a little something and then you got knocked back down. That's a genuine, true rags to riches.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of his investments, just to name a few: Google, Microsoft, Ford, AEP Electric,
You know what I mean?
the
Those
the
are
the
large
man,
companies, lasting brands.
yes, lasting brands, and he did his work. He did his homework on each one. He broke it down for that, and I can honestly say that's the way to go. But like how you say, you got to put in that hard work.
Black question.
But anything else that you got to add on Mr. Gardner Black?
No, like I said, I have not seen the movie.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure the movie probably would not cover a lot of the details in the early portions of his life. But
Oh no, no.
if you if you find out about, the earlier years of Mr. Gardner, it you understand that that at any point in time, and I'm going to say this, and I'm trying not to say this as an insulting way, even though it kind of comes off as such, but a lesser man would have folded. But
Mm,
when you find out, when you see some of the adversity that Christopher Gardner had been facing all his life, you come to understand that he wasn't cut to be a lesser man.
true.
You know what I mean? He would have tapped out a long time before this happened. So if that couldn't break him, the struggles on his pursuit to happiness, that wasn't going to break him either. And that's the commendable part about it. Like I said, I don't know if the movie actually depicts the earlier years, but when you
No, it's
see,
just a certain time frame, because it even didn't speak about his parents too much, his military
and
career
and
too much. It
and
didn't
that's
do
the
all that.
thing, you see those, that's the real rags to riches. That the pursuit of happiness is that portion of his life is a captivating time. But again, like I said, when you see the genesis of it, when you see the progression through it up until that point, what you see in the pursuit of happiness to a degree makes sense. You
Yeah,
understand you
it,
understand that that type of guy wasn't going to fold in those situations.
yeah. Well, my friend, it's about that time that the clock will strike. We
Yep,
hope
we're gonna
that y'all have
reset.
been enjoying. Oh yeah, so we can reset. We hope y'all have been enjoying this mini series and gave y'all a little bit further in depth. If you have
Wait, we're
liked
not done yet.
what you, oh no no, far from it. This is only part two. But if you've liked what you've heard and seen, smash that like button. Subscribe to us. Tell a friend. Let a friend tell a friend.
Leave a comment.
Oh yes, leave a comment and everything else. And as we say here, clockwise thoughts, please come and sit down and share your thoughts with us. Peace.
We appreciate it. See y'all later.
41 minutes.